As the title of the video suggests, this isn't your ordinary story. You know, I thought it's around the time of Halloween, so I thought, why not get a little festive and share a spooky story of my own? But this one's based on true events. So settle in because you might just shit yourself. Just as I. So the time this happened, I was around 17 years old, which was 3 years ago. And at the time, I was already well established at McDonald's. I was a decent employee. I wasn't like a fucking McWarrior. But nonetheless, I just did it because I was getting money. I'm not too knowledgeable about when exactly it happened, like the day of the week. I just know that it happened when I was 17 because it was my first job ever. And this was, it leaves a scar on you. Sometimes a brown one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this all happened during the middle of my shift because at the end of it, I just remember running home. But yeah, this is also a story of learning because I learned that certain foods you should never eat together. So let me give you the breakdown, the context of why this happened because it doesn't just happen. At least not to me. I was on my lunch break and, after working a good old hard job at old McDonald's, I thought I deserved a 10-piece chicken nugget. And everybody knows that you can't have chicken nuggets without a sauce. If you do, you're a madman. And as I sit down in the break room about to destroy that 10-piece nugget, I thought to myself, something's missing, something sweet. And my 17-year-old mind could only pick up on one thing. Caramel frappe. And you're probably thinking, Joseph, it's just a caramel frappe and chicken nuggets. What could be the harm in that? We're missing the big clue here that I forgot to give. The sauce. It was buffalo sauce. Now, I'm no gastroenterologist, but, I don't think spicy food and milk tend to mix too well. And boy, it proved me right. And after scuffing down that interesting combination of food I concocted myself, I didn't really feel anything different until I did. And about an hour later, I started to feel the side effects of my poor choices. Some would probably be able to hear them too if they got too close. That's what I was afraid of. And at the time, there wasn't too much business at good old Mickey D's until the universe decided, let's play with them a little bit. So a car rolls in, just one car by himself. Don't really give a fuck what his order was anymore. Fuck that guy and his decision making at the time because I'm convinced that if that car didn't pull in that day, this would have never happened. So I take the guy's order, and it's not like it happened because I was nervous or anything, so my body decided to let out a unnecessary reaction. But it's when he pulled up to the window. So he pulls up to the window, paying with card, so all I had to do was flip the goddamn screen reader to him and he just scans his card. But it's what he said after. Can I get the receipt? If he never said that, I probably wouldn't have shit myself. So I obliged to his request. The printer prints out his receipt. I take it. He's parked so far away from the window, so now I'm going to have to stretch out the window like I'm Mr. fucking Fantastic. So as I'm reaching over, here you go, sir. Now I'm exaggerating with the fart noise I made because I don't think it was that loud. I don't think anybody really heard it. I think it was loud to me because I felt it. But like a soldier after a war, I was shell-shocked. I wasn't even sure what just happened. And I was like, maybe it was just a fart, maybe I'm just it's all in my head. Just so to confirm that, I look around to make sure nobody's looking. I'm there by myself. I touch the back of my pants and push it up against my cheek to see what would happen, to see if it'd smear, and it did. It was warm. But what was to come after was pretty unexpected. Another joke from the universe, as I'd say. We got pretty busy, so I'm gonna have to work with shit in my pants for who knows how long, maybe to the end of my shift. But thankfully that wasn't the case. So after a couple probably minutes of a quick rush hour, it wasn't an hour, it was more like 15-20 minutes. I was afraid that maybe it already crusted up and dried and I smelled like the sewer, but I don't think I did. I went up to my manager, my shift lead at the time, and said, I need to use the restroom. She said, go ahead. So I make my way to the restroom, and let's just say the things that unfolded in there, I shouldn't even talk about. So as I enter the big boys' room, I decide to take my boxers off, and I feast my eyes upon the massacre. It wasn't as bad as I expected, but it's still... I couldn't explain to you what it looked like. But let's just say I was able to pinpoint the buffalo sauce. So I get to cleaning, and I just used toilet paper and water. Those were kind of the only things that were disposable at that time. And I have to remember that I'm still on the clock, so I have to do this at a pretty fast pace. So as I'm done cleaning them, which I'm using very loosely here because I wasn't necessarily cleaning them, I was just making them less stinky. But as I'm doing that, I needed something to mask the smell, so I came up with an idea. Something that only Albert Einstein himself could probably think of. I used the hand soap. And I use it in an interesting way. Of course, to activate the soap, you have to get some water in it and start rubbing your hands together, but I didn't fully rinse my boxers. All I did was get the soap, the bubbles on my hand, and just put it all around the outside of my boxers. So as I'm done experimenting for the first time in that bathroom, I make my way back to the kitchen, and I try to act as natural as possible, just your average depressed person, because nobody truly likes working a 9-to-5 job, especially McDonald's. I'm speaking for myself, but I think a good portion of people would agree. So I had about an hour left on my shift, and surprisingly, we didn't get any business, which was great. And also, my stomach wasn't hurting. I think it was due to all the trauma and all the thoughts I had in my head due to the experience. It just canceled out my digestive system. So as we're closing, I'm doing everything extra fast. I'm trying to get out of there as soon as possible. And my managers are probably looking at me like I'm a whole different breed. Like, where is this guy during his regular shifts? I do remember them letting me go home early as well because I got a lot of my stuff done faster. And all they had to do was their stuff. So they said, hey, you can go home. Right when they said those words, I fucking took off. I didn't have a car or anybody to come pick me up. So I had to walk home from work. And so I fucking took off. If you were to take my numbers there and Usain Bolt's numbers and compare them, it'd be a fucking landslide going in my favor. So I got home, turned that shower to max heat, went in there and washed away my brown sorrows, as I'd say. And after that, it was just history. Moral of this story: poor decision making and butterfly effects. Hope you guys found some sort of interest in this story. Thanks.